Raoul Pal, the CEO of Global Macro Investor, has just made a bold statement. Altcoins like XRP are about to move into a new phase of growth, what he calls the full port stage. According to Pal, the market is like a waiting room. Different assets are sitting there, waiting for their turn, and one by one they step out into growth. Ethereum, he says, has already left the waiting room. Solana is next. And XRP? Pal argues it is no longer waiting at all. It is already in the process of full porting to higher levels. Now, let's take a closer look at this. First, Ethereum has been on a strong run. Since July, ETH is up almost 70%, even reaching a new all-time high before slightly pulling back. This is what Pal describes as the full port phase in action. For Solana, he believes his turn is just around the corner, and right after Solana, Sway could follow. But his most interesting comments were directed at XRP. Despite XRP being down about 3.98% this month, Pal insists that the token is actually not struggling, but instead preparing for its next big move upward. He pointed out that XRP had already staged a massive 35% rally back in July 2025. These comments came at a time when Bitcoin itself surged to a fresh all-time high, crossing $124,000 before retracing slightly. Historically, this has been a moment when attention starts shifting toward altcoins, sparking what many in the industry call altcoin season. Pal believes XRP will be one of the beneficiaries of this rotation. To make his point, Raoul Pal shared a long-term weekly XRP chart that tracks the token's price history all the way back to 2014. This chart shows a repeating cycle of consolidation inside triangles and wedges, followed by explosive breakouts. Let me break it down. Between 2014 and 2017, XRP spent nearly 3 years consolidating inside a descending triangle. Then it broke out and surged all the way to its historic peak of $3.30 in January 2018. After that peak, XRP corrected deeply until mid-2020. But here's the pattern. During that correction, the token formed a falling wedge, and just like the textbook suggests, it broke upward, climbing to $1.96 by April 2021. Another long triangle followed from 2021 until late 2024. Again, XRP eventually broke out, rising through key levels at $1, $2, and even $3. Today, XRP trades just under $3, and Pal notes that it is now forming a smaller triangular pattern, what traders often call a pennant. If XRP breaks above this pennant, the breakout continues and the full port stage is confirmed. If not, prices could slide back to the $1.70 to $2 zone. In other words, the technical picture looks promising, but not guaranteed. Looking beyond XRP itself, Pal also tied his analysis to the bigger global picture. He highlighted Bitcoin's long-term correlation with global money supply growth, especially the M2 measure, which tracks cash and liquid assets. Historically, Bitcoin tends to follow M2 with a delay of about 12 weeks. As global liquidity expands, money first flows into Bitcoin and then into altcoins like XRP. This is why Pal advises investors not to obsess over short-term price swings, but to pay attention to the broader pattern. And what about liquidity today? According to Pal, global liquidity is stronger than ever. The United States, China, Japan, and Europe all have massive amounts of debt that need to be rolled over. That means central banks will have to keep liquidity flowing, essentially fueling risk assets like crypto. On top of that, Pal points out that regulatory improvements, sovereign accumulation of crypto, and even Wall Street's growing embrace of digital assets are creating what he calls conditions very similar to 2017, the year of the last major altcoin boom. So what does this all mean for XRP holders? Pal is optimistic. He believes the current crypto cycle has more room to run, possibly stretching into early or even mid-2026. He also introduced his own phrase, calling this period the banana zone. According to him, the banana zone began in August 2024, and from here, the pace of growth will only get faster. Now, it is important to stay critical here. While Pal's analysis is compelling, it rests heavily on repeating historical chart patterns and broad macro liquidity trends. Markets do rhyme with the past, but they rarely repeat perfectly. XRP still faces its own challenges, from regulatory uncertainty to competition from other altcoins. And as always, there is a risk that the pennant pattern fails, sending the price lower before any larger breakout happens. But what we cannot ignore is this. Raoul Pal is not just making wild guesses. He is tying XRP's potential directly to global financial conditions, past market cycles, and current investor behavior. Whether you agree with him or not, his message is clear. If the liquidity environment continues, and if the altcoin season unfolds as it has in the past, XRP could be at the start of its own full port into higher levels. So, the big question now is, will XRP repeat history and break out again? Or will this time be different? Only the market can answer. But for now, Pal's analysis is giving the XRP community something to pay close attention to.